3 months after my fiancé left me, for my best friend, I received their wedding invitation. Not a text, not an email, not even one of those awkward pity calls people make when they feel guilty but don't want a real conversation. They mailed it. Thick paper, cream-colored, gold lettering pressed deep into the card. Like the whole thing had been designed to celebrate a perfect love story. My name was written on the front. Elena Carter. I stood in my apartment doorway staring at it. Groceries in one hand, the envelope in the other. For a moment, I honestly thought it had to be a mistake. Then I looked at the return address. Olivia Monroe and Daniel Hayes, my best friend, and my ex-fiancé, the two people who had destroyed my life 3 months earlier, and now they were inviting me to their wedding. I walked slowly into my kitchen, set the groceries down, and stared at the envelope again. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. 3 months ago, everything made my hands shake. Doorbells, phone calls, even opening the fridge. Back then, I could barely breathe, without remembering what they did. But now I just felt still. And sometimes stillness is worse than pain, because pain is loud. Pain burns. Stillness is cold. Stillness means something inside you has already changed. I slid my finger under the seal and opened the envelope. Inside were 4 things: the invitation, a details card, an RSVP card, and a handwritten note. I knew the handwriting immediately. Olivia. She used to leave notes on my fridge. Sticky notes, birthday cards, encouraging messages before job interviews. She used to sign them, "Forever your sister." I unfolded the paper and read, "Elena, I know this might feel awkward, but you were such an important part of both our lives. It wouldn't feel right not to invite you. We truly hope that in time you can be happy for us. Love, Olivia." I read it once, then again, then a third time, not because it was confusing, because it was perfectly clear. I know this might feel awkward, like she borrowed my jacket, without asking, like she showed up at dinner, wearing the same dress, not like she slept with the man I was supposed to marry, not like he moved out of our apartment while I was at work, not like he left my engagement ring in a cereal bowl on the kitchen table. Awkward. I laughed. The sound surprised me. It didn't sound like my laugh. It sounded lower, colder, like it belonged to someone else. I sat down at the kitchen table, still holding the note, because betrayal doesn't arrive once. It arrives again and again, in memories, in small details, in ordinary moments that suddenly start bleeding. And if you want to understand why I eventually went to that wedding, you have to understand what they took from me first. I met Olivia when I was 19. We were in the same communications class. I was broke, completely broke. $27 in my bank account, a second-hand laptop that overheated every 15 minutes, and a roommate who believed deodorant was part of a corporate conspiracy. Olivia was the opposite. Perfect coat, perfect hair, perfect confidence. She looked like she belonged in expensive rooms. She sat next to me, opened her notebook, listened to the professor talk for 10 minutes, then leaned toward me and whispered, "If he keeps talking like this, I'm going to fake a medical emergency." I laughed so loudly, half the class turned around. That was the beginning. From that day forward, we were everywhere together. Library study nights, cheap takeout dinners, long walks through campus at midnight, sharing notes, sharing secrets, sharing our dreams for the future. Olivia had a gift. When she looked at you, it felt like she had chosen you, like you mattered, because she decided you did. And back then, I trusted that feeling. She came from money, old money, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up in foundations and museum boards, not flashy cars. Her family's house had a circular driveway and a piano no one played. My house had peeling paint and a mortgage my mother struggled to pay after my father died. But Olivia never made me feel small, at least, not in obvious ways. And that's how some friendships work. They don't hurt you openly. They help you. They pay for dinners. They introduce you to better places, better people, better opportunities. And slowly, gratitude starts to look like friendship. For years, I believed ours was real. She held me when my grandmother died. I talked her through panic attacks. She hid from everyone else. We knew each other's secrets. Or, at least, I thought we did. Daniel came later. I was 28 when we met. By then, life had finally started to stabilize. I worked at a marketing firm in Manhattan. Nothing glamorous. But it paid the bills. My apartment in Brooklyn was small, but it had sunlight, exposed brick, and terrible plumbing. Still, it was mine. Olivia introduced us at a charity fundraiser. I didn't even want to go. Those events are exhausting. Everyone holding champagne glasses and talking about impact like it's a personality trait. I was standing near the catering table, debating whether 2 crab cakes would make me look desperate. When Olivia appeared beside me, "Elena," she said, "there's someone you should meet." Daniel Hayes turned around. Tall, navy suit, kind eyes. The kind of smile that appears easily. "Daniel," Olivia said. "This is Elena, the smartest person I know." I rolled my eyes. "Is this you trying to set me up?" Olivia smiled innocently. "I have no idea what you mean." Daniel laughed. A warm laugh. Unscripted. And suddenly the evening didn't feel so exhausting anymore. We spent the rest of the night talking. About work. About bad movies. About how both of us secretly hated events like this. When he asked for my number, I already knew I would say yes. The relationship moved quickly, but it felt natural. Daniel remembered small things. He showed up. When I got sick, he brought soup. When my cabinet door broke, he fixed it. When he met my mother, he treated her with such kindness. She cried in the bathroom afterward. "This one sees you," she told me, and I believed that. For 2 years, Daniel became the center of my future. We moved in together, adopted a rescue cat, talked about houses, schools, children. He proposed on a rainy Sunday morning, in our kitchen, while I was making pancakes. No orchestra, no rooftop view, just Daniel standing barefoot, holding a ring with slightly shaking hands. "I want every ordinary morning, for the rest of my life," he said, "as long as it's with you." I cried before he even opened the box. We called my mother. We called his sister. Then we called Olivia. She screamed so loudly, I had to move the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God," she shouted. "I'm planning everything." And for a while, she did. Dress shopping, cake tastings, venue lists, mood boards sent at 2 in the morning. She called me her bride, and I loved her for it. If there were warning signs, I didn't see them. Or maybe I refused to, because betrayal rarely begins where you think it does. It starts earlier, in moments you almost ignore. Like the way Olivia began texting Daniel directly about wedding plans. Like the way he smiled at his phone when her name appeared. Like the night I walked into a restaurant late and saw them already seated together, leaning close, laughing. They moved apart when they saw me, just slightly, just enough. Back then, I ignored it. Because who suspects their fiancé? And their best friend? Apparently, someone who should have. The first real crack appeared. 6 weeks before the wedding, Daniel started coming home late. He said it was work, company restructuring, deadlines, pressure. At first I believed him, but something felt different. He was distracted, guarded with his phone, distant in a way that didn't quite have a reason. When I mentioned the wedding, he smiled politely, but his excitement felt gone. I told Olivia one afternoon, "I feel like Daniel's somewhere else lately." She squeezed my hand. "Elena," she said gently, "men get weird before weddings. It's commitment panic. Don't create problems that aren't there." That sentence closed the door. After that, I stopped trusting my instincts. I focused on wedding details, table settings, flower colors, seating charts. Until the Thursday, everything fell apart. I came home early from work, picked up takeout, green curry, dumplings, coconut cake. Daniel loved that place. I unlocked the apartment door, called his name. No answer. The apartment felt wrong. Then I saw the closet, half empty, hangers swinging, suitcase gone, and on the kitchen table, a cereal bowl. Inside it, my engagement ring. There was a note underneath, 3 lines. I'm sorry. I can't do this. Please don't call me. The dumplings fell out of my hands. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the kitchen floor, staring at that bowl. My cat licking spilled sauce nearby. I called Daniel. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then I called Olivia. No answer. I texted her. Daniel left. Something is wrong. Call me. She didn't respond. For 2 days, they both disappeared. Then Olivia finally texted. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen this way. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied with one word. Where? 10 minutes later, Daniel called. Elena, he said. Say it. I told him. Silence. Then he breathed out slowly. I'm with Olivia. That was the moment. My life split in half. Before and after. 3 months later, their wedding invitation arrived. I looked at the RSVP card again. Decline. Accept. My mother told me not to go. You don't owe them anything, she said. Maybe she was right. But when I looked at Olivia's note again, I felt something different. Not grief. Not rage. Something colder. They weren't just inviting me. They were daring me to stay silent. I picked up the RSVP card, looked at the 2 boxes. Then I checked one. Accept. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Because if I was going to attend that wedding, I wasn't going as the broken ex. I was going to learn the truth. And once I knew the truth, I would decide exactly what kind of wedding gift they deserved. The morning after I mailed the RSVP card, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because of an alarm, because of a thought. It had been sitting in my mind all night, quiet, patient, refusing to leave. Something about their story didn't feel right. Not the public version, the one on their wedding website. What began as friendship became honesty. Honesty, that word bothered me, because I had lived through those months. And honesty was the last thing. I remembered. I got out of bed, made coffee, sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop. If I was going to attend that wedding, I needed to understand something first. How long had this actually been happening? Because affairs rarely start overnight. They grow, slowly, quietly, in the shadows between conversations. I opened Olivia's social media. I hadn't looked at it since the breakup. 3 months. 3 months of avoiding every photo, every tag, every smiling image of them together. But now, I forced myself to scroll. The engagement announcement appeared first. A perfectly staged photo. Daniel standing behind her, his arms around her waist, her head leaning back against his chest. Both of them smiling like the happiest couple in the world. The caption read, "Sometimes love surprises you in the most unexpected ways." Unexpected. I stared at that word. Then I kept scrolling. Photos from dinners, wine tastings, a weekend in Napa, a charity gala. Every picture carefully edited, every moment curated, every smile flawless. It looked like the beginning of a beautiful relationship. But something about it felt wrong, because the timeline didn't make sense. According to their posts, they started dating almost immediately. After Daniel left me, no hesitation, no awkward transition, no guilt, just happiness, which raised one simple question. How do 2 people fall that quickly into a perfect relationship unless it started long before? Anyone admitted it? I leaned back in my chair, thinking. Then another memory surfaced. A small one, but suddenly it felt important. Vanessa. The name I had seen In their wedding guest messages. Vanessa Reed. I had seen her talking to Daniel once. At a rooftop party. They were standing near the railing, laughing, leaning closer than strangers usually do. At the time, Olivia had joked about it. Careful, she had said. Vanessa collects taken men like handbags. We had all laughed. But now, I wondered, what if that wasn't just a joke? I searched Vanessa's name. Her profile appeared immediately. Public, elegant, exactly the kind of woman Olivia usually surrounded herself with. Scrolling through her photos, I found something interesting. A picture from last year. A charity fundraiser. The same event where Olivia had introduced me to Daniel. I zoomed in. There he was, standing in the background, talking to Vanessa, smiling, and Olivia, standing beside them, watching. For a moment, my stomach tightened, because something about that moment looked familiar. Not like the beginning of a relationship, more like a triangle. I kept scrolling. More photos, more events, more overlapping circles. The same group of people, the same parties, the same dinners, which meant something important. Daniel and Olivia hadn't just met recently. They had been in the same social orbit for years, long before he ever proposed to me. That thought sat heavily in my mind, because if that was true, then the story they told everyone was already wrong. I closed the laptop slowly and stared out the window. Traffic moved along the street below, people going to work, normal life continuing. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my kitchen, trying to reconstruct the moment. My entire relationship had become a lie. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. I answered. Hello? A woman's voice replied. Hi. Is this Elena Carter? Yes. There was a pause. Then she said something unexpected. My name is Vanessa Reed. For a second, I didn't speak. The name felt strange, coming directly through the phone. Yes, I said carefully. How can I help you? Another pause. Longer this time. Then she spoke again. I know this might sound strange, but I think we should talk. I felt my pulse quicken. About what? Her voice lowered. About Daniel. Silence filled my kitchen. What about him? I asked. Vanessa hesitated. Then she said something that made the air feel suddenly heavier. I think you deserve to know what really happened. For a moment, I considered hanging up, because that sentence was dangerous. It meant one of two things. Either she was about to tell me something true, or she was about to reopen a wound. I had spent 3 months trying to survive. Why now? I asked. Because of the wedding, she said. I saw your name on the guest list. My chest tightened. How? I helped Olivia with the seating chart. That answer surprised me. You're helping plan the wedding? Yes. Her voice sounded complicated, not excited, not cheerful, almost uneasy. Then she continued. Elena, I'm not calling to hurt you. Then why are you calling? I asked. Another pause. Then she said quietly, because the story they're telling everyone isn't the real one. My hand tightened around the phone. What do you mean? Vanessa took a slow breath. Daniel didn't just fall in love with Olivia 3 months ago. I suspected that, I said. Yes, she replied, but it's worse than you think. My stomach dropped. How long? I asked. Silence. Then she said the number. Almost a year. The room suddenly felt very quiet. A year? I repeated. Yes. My mind started replaying memories. Dinner parties, weekend trips, group events, all the moments when Olivia and Daniel had been in the same room. All the moments. I had trusted them. They were careful. Vanessa continued. Very careful. Most people didn't notice, but I did. Why? I asked. Because Daniel flirted with me first. That sentence surprised me. What? Vanessa gave a short, humorless laugh. Last summer, at a rooftop party, he spent half the night talking to me. I remembered that night. I remembered Olivia's joke. Vanessa continued. At first I thought he was interested, but then I realized something. What? I asked. He kept looking past me. Looking where? At Olivia. The kitchen suddenly felt colder. Vanessa spoke again. They had chemistry, the kind you can't fake. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I closed my eyes briefly, trying to steady my breathing. So you're saying? Yes, she interrupted softly. They were already emotionally involved, long before he left you. Emotionally involved. The phrase felt almost polite, for what it meant. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't think you are the problem. Her voice softened. And because I don't think their story is honest. That word again. Honest. I leaned back in my chair, processing everything. A year. That meant something important. Daniel had proposed to me during the middle of their relationship, which meant the proposal itself might have been a lie. The thought made my chest tighten. Elena? Vanessa said. Yes. There's something else. My grip on the phone tightened. What? I saw them together, 2 weeks before he left you. The room went silent. Where? At a restaurant in Tribeca. What were they doing? Vanessa hesitated, then answered carefully. They looked like a couple. I felt something inside my chest. Shift. Not pain. Something colder. Did they see you? I asked. No. Did anyone else see them? I don't know. I stared at the wall in front of me. 2 weeks before he left. 2 weeks before the cereal bowl. 2 weeks before my entire life collapsed. Which meant something else. When Daniel told me he needed time to think, he had already chosen her. Elena, Vanessa said gently. Yes. I'm sorry. Why? For being part of their circle. For not saying anything sooner. I took a slow breath, then asked the question that mattered most. Vanessa. Yes? Why are you really calling me now? She hesitated. Then she said something unexpected. Because I don't think you're the only person they lied to. That sentence hung in the air. What do you mean? I asked. Vanessa spoke slowly, carefully. Olivia thinks she's the one Daniel shows. But I'm not sure that's actually true. My pulse quickened. What are you saying? I'm saying Daniel might not be as loyal as she believes. The words settled heavily. Do you have proof? I asked. Yes. The answer came immediately. And if you're going to that wedding, I think you should see it. My heart started beating faster. What kind of proof? I asked. Vanessa lowered her voice. Messages. The word echoed in my mind. What kind of messages? The kind that showed Daniel was talking to other women. Even after he started seeing Olivia, the room felt suddenly very still. Other women? I repeated. Yes. My mind started forming a new picture. Not just betrayal. A pattern. Elena, Vanessa continued. I don't know what you plan to do at that wedding, but if you're going, you deserve to know exactly who these people are. I looked down at the invitation, still sitting on my table. The gold lettering caught the light. Elegant. Beautiful. Completely false. When can I see them? I asked. Vanessa answered quietly. Tonight. I stood slowly from the chair. Where? There's a cafe in Soho. I'll send you the address. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Okay. Elena? Yes. Just be careful. The line went quiet. The call ended. I stood in my kitchen, holding the phone, thinking about everything she said. A year. Hidden messages. Other women. For 3 months, I had believed the worst thing Daniel did to me was leave. But now it sounded like something else might be true. Maybe Olivia hadn't stolen my fiancé. Maybe she had stolen someone else's problem. I looked at the wedding invitation again. Then I smiled slowly, because if Vanessa was telling the truth, that wedding gift I was planning was about to become much more interesting. And for the first time since the invitation arrived, I had the feeling this story was going to end very differently than Olivia and Daniel expected. The cafe Vanessa chose was small, quiet, One of those places people use when they don't want to be overheard. It sat on a narrow street in Soho. Brick walls, dim lights, soft music. The kind of place where conversations feel more private than they actually are. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat near the back window, and ordered coffee I didn't plan to drink. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. "I'm here." I looked up. She had just walked in. Tall, dark coat, blonde hair tied loosely behind her head. I recognized her immediately, from the party months earlier. She spotted me and walked over. "Elena?" "Yes." She sat down across from me. For a moment, neither of us spoke, because this was strange. Two women, connected only by the same man. A man who had lied to both of us. Vanessa finally broke the silence. "Thank you for coming. I needed answers," I said. She nodded. I figured. A waitress approached. Vanessa ordered tea, then leaned slightly forward. "You probably want to know why I'm really here." "Yes." She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and placed it on the table between us. "I told you I had proof." My pulse quickened slightly. "What kind of proof?" Vanessa unlocked her phone, opened a folder, then turned the screen toward me. Messages. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Names. Dates. Conversations. All from Daniel. My chest tightened. "Who are these women?" I asked quietly. Vanessa shook her head. "I don't know all of them, but I recognized some names from Olivia's social circle." I picked up the phone, scrawled slowly. Flirting, late-night texts, dinner invitations, and timestamps. Many of them after Daniel had already started seeing Olivia. One message caught my eye. "Daniel, last night was fun. We should do it again soon." The response, "Unknown. Is Olivia going to be there?" Daniel's reply came seconds later. "No. Don't worry about Olivia." My stomach dropped. I kept scrolling. More conversations. More dates. More evidence. It wasn't just one woman. It was several. A pattern. A bit. Vanessa watched my expression carefully. "I found those by accident," she said. "How?" She exhaled slowly. "Daniel left his phone on the table during a party, and I saw a message pop up from another woman. Curious, playful, very familiar." "What did it say?" I asked. Vanessa hesitated, then answered, still thinking about last night. The words felt heavy in the air. "And Olivia?" I asked. "Does she know?" Vanessa shook her head. "I don't think so." That surprised me. "You're sure?" "As sure as I can be." Vanessa leaned back slightly. "Elena." "Olivia believes she won." The sentence hung between us. "She thinks Daniel chose her. But from what I've seen." Vanessa tapped the phone screen. "Daniel doesn't choose anyone." I stared at the messages again, trying to process it. 3 months ago, I thought I had been replaced. But now the situation looked different. Much different. Daniel hadn't chosen Olivia. He had simply moved on, the same way he might move on again. And again. And again. "Why show me this?" I asked. Vanessa's voice softened. "Because Olivia built this whole story." "What story?" "The one where she and Daniel are meant to be together. The one where your relationship was just a mistake." The word stung slightly. Vanessa continued, "But if that story isn't true, someone should know." I looked up. "Why not tell Olivia directly?" Vanessa gave a small laugh. "You know Olivia." I did. She believed what she wanted to believe, and she defended it fiercely. "She wouldn't listen," Vanessa said. "She'd assume I was jealous, and maybe she'd be right," she added. I raised an eyebrow. "Jealous?" Vanessa shrugged. "For a while, I thought Daniel liked me, but now I realize something." "What?" "He likes attention." I nodded slowly. That description felt accurate. Too accurate. Vanessa pushed the phone closer. "There's something else." "What?" "These messages are recent." "How recent?" 2 weeks ago." I stared at her. 2 weeks? Yes. My mind started calculating. The wedding was only a few weeks away, which meant Daniel was still doing this. Even now, even while planning a wedding, Vanessa continued quietly. Elena, if you attend that wedding, you need to understand something. What? You're not just walking into a love story. You're walking into a performance. The sentence settled heavily. A performance. It fit. The photos, the website, the engagement narrative. Everything had been carefully designed. But the messages, I said, they change everything. Vanessa nodded. Yes. Then she asked softly, what are you planning to do with them? The question lingered, because until this moment, my plan had been vague. Attend the wedding, learn the truth, maybe confront them. But now, I was holding something far more powerful. Evidence. Proof. And proof changes things. I looked at Vanessa. Can you send me these? She nodded. Of course. Within seconds, my phone vibrated. A file arrived. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Daniel's words. Daniel's lies. Daniel's patterns. The same man who had once stood barefoot in our kitchen and promised me every ordinary morning. Vanessa watched me carefully. What are you thinking? She asked. I looked down at the messages, then at the wedding invitation, still saved in my bag. Finally, I answered. I'm thinking Olivia deserves a wedding gift. Vanessa's eyebrows lifted slightly. What kind of gift? I smiled faintly. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be memorable. Vanessa studied my expression, then said quietly, just make sure it doesn't destroy you too. The warning was genuine. I appreciated that, but she didn't understand something yet. 3 months ago, I had already been destroyed. What remained now was something different, something calmer, something colder. We finished our drinks in silence. Before leaving, Vanessa asked one last question. Elena? Yes. Quote, if Olivia knew the truth, do you think she'd still marry him? I considered that, really considered it. Olivia loved control, image, status. She loved winning, and in her mind, stealing someone's fiancé had been a victory. But what happens when the prize itself is flawed? I don't know, I admitted, but I guess we'll find out. Vanessa nodded slowly. Then we stood, said goodbye, and walked in opposite directions. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment, laptop open, screenshots spread across the screen. Daniel's messages glowed. In the dim light, I studied them carefully, one by one, looking for patterns, looking for names, looking for something useful. Then I noticed something interesting. One name appeared, more often than the others. Sophie. The messages with Sophie were longer, more personal, more dangerous. My pulse quickened slightly, because unlike the others, Daniel had sent her something unusual. A photo. I clicked it, and froze, because the picture was taken in a place I recognized immediately. Our apartment. My apartment. The living room couch. The same couch Daniel and I had bought together. The timestamp sat clearly beneath the image. 6 weeks before he left me, the exact same week, we were meeting venues for our wedding. I stared at the screen. Something inside me shifted, because suddenly, this wasn't just about Olivia, or revenge, or humiliation. This was about something else. Truth. The kind of truth that can end a wedding before it even begins. I leaned back slowly and smiled, because now I finally understood something. Daniel had been careful, but not careful enough. And if he thought his secrets would stay buried, he had clearly forgotten one thing. The woman he betrayed was now the only person who knew exactly where all the bodies were buried. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. I stared at the photo on my screen, the couch, the lamp in the corner, the bookshelf beside the window. It was my apartment, my living room, and Daniel had taken that picture there. 6 weeks before he left me, 6 weeks before our wedding. I zoomed in. The timestamp was clear. A Tuesday night. 9:47 p.m. I remembered that evening. I had stayed late at work. Daniel texted me earlier that day. Working from home tonight. Working. I looked again at the photo. The image wasn't explicit. Just a glass of wine on the coffee table. 2 glasses, actually. And Daniel's caption underneath. Wish you were here. The message had been sent to Sophie, not me. My stomach tightened slightly. But the feeling that followed wasn't heartbreak. That part of me was already exhausted. This was something different. Clarity. Because now I knew something for certain. Daniel hadn't just cheated emotionally. He had cheated physically. In our home. On the couch we picked together. While planning a wedding with me. I leaned back in my chair. Closed my eyes for a moment. Then opened them again. This time my mind worked differently. Not as someone grieving. But as someone investigating. I opened the message thread again. Scrawled slowly. Reading every line. Sophie's messages were playful. Confident. She clearly believed she was important to him. Maybe even special. Daniel encouraged that illusion. Flirting. Compliments. Late-night conversations. But something else caught my attention. One message from Sophie. Are you still going through with the wedding? Daniel replied quickly. Yes. Then another message appeared. The one that made my chest tighten. Don't worry. It's temporary. Temporary. I stared at the word. Temporary. What did that even mean? Temporary for what? Temporary for who? Another message followed. Sophie. And Olivia? Daniel's reply came 30 seconds later. Olivia understands how things work. I blinked slowly. Because that sentence made no sense. Olivia understands how things work. What exactly did that mean? Was Olivia aware? Or was Daniel lying to both of them? I leaned closer to the screen. Scrolled further. Then I saw something else. A photo Sophie had sent him. A restaurant table. 2 plates. 2 wine glasses. The caption read, Next time you're paying. I looked at the location tag. Tribeca. The same restaurant Vanessa had mentioned. The night she saw Daniel with Olivia. My mind paused there. Something didn't add up. If Vanessa saw Daniel with Olivia that night, why was Sophie also there? I checked the timestamps again. Vanessa had said the sighting happened 2 weeks before Daniel left me. The messages between Daniel and Sophie were from the same week, the same night. My pulse quickened. Because suddenly the situation looked different. Daniel hadn't been with Olivia that evening. He had been with Sophie, which meant something important. Vanessa had assumed the woman with him was Olivia. But what if it wasn't? I opened the photo again, zoomed in on the reflection in the window. A woman sat across from Daniel. Dark hair, not blonde, not Olivia. My heart began to beat faster. Because Olivia was blonde. Sophie wasn't. Which meant Vanessa had been wrong. Daniel hadn't been with Olivia that night. He had been with Sophie. And Olivia might not have known anything about it. I leaned back slowly, thinking, because now a different possibility emerged. Daniel had been seeing Sophie. At the same time, he had been growing closer to Olivia. 2 separate relationships. Running in parallel. Both of them hidden. Both of them built on lies. And when everything finally collapsed, Olivia thought she had won. But in reality, she had only stepped into the position Sophie once held. Temporary. The thought almost made me laugh. Not out of joy, out of irony. Because Olivia had always loved winning, especially when the victory came from taking something someone else had. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. Did you look at the screenshots yet? I typed back. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Then another message arrived. Find anything interesting? I hesitated. Then typed. More than I expected. Vanessa replied quickly. Good. Another message followed. Because there's something else you should know. My fingers paused above the screen. What? A moment passed. Then her response appeared. Daniel isn't the only one hiding something. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? Her reply came slowly. Olivia's family. That surprised me. What about them? A pause. Then the message appeared. Daniel's job. My stomach tightened slightly. Daniel worked at an investment firm, but Olivia's father owned several companies, including one Daniel had started working with recently. I typed again. What about his job? Vanessa answered. He didn't get that position by accident. My mind sharpened immediately. Explain. Her reply came 1 minute later. Olivia recommended him. That wasn't surprising. She had introduced us. After all, but Vanessa sent another message, the one that changed everything. And Olivia's father made sure Daniel was promoted. I sat very still, because that detail mattered. A lot. If Daniel's career depended on Olivia's family, then their relationship wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. And suddenly the phrase from the messages echoed again. Olivia understands how things work. Maybe that line wasn't about cheating. Maybe it meant something else. Maybe Olivia knew exactly what kind of man Daniel was, and chose him anyway. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa sent another message. Elena, I don't think Daniel is marrying Olivia for love. I stared at the screen, then typed. Then why? The answer arrived a few seconds later. Because her family controls his entire career. The words felt heavy, and suddenly everything started making sense. The sudden proposal, the perfect wedding narrative, the carefully curated relationship. Daniel wasn't just choosing Olivia. He was choosing power, status, connections, security. And Olivia. Olivia might believe she had stolen someone's fiancé, but in reality, she might have purchased one. I stood slowly from my chair, walked toward the window. The city lights flickered below. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. 3 months ago, I thought my life had been destroyed. But now, I was starting to see something different. Daniel hadn't left me because Olivia was better. He left because Olivia was useful. The realization felt strangely calm, almost peaceful. Because once you understand someone's motivation, their actions stop feeling personal. They become predictable. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Vanessa. Are you still planning to attend the wedding? I looked at the invitation on my desk. The gold lettering shimmered under the lamp. Then I typed one word. Yes. She responded quickly. Good. Another message appeared. Because I think something interesting is about to happen. My eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? Vanessa's reply came slowly, almost carefully. I think Sophie might be attending the wedding too. My heart skipped a beat. Sophie? Yes. She received an invitation. I stared at the screen, because that detail changed everything. If Sophie showed up, Daniel would be standing at the altar, with 2 women in the room, who both believed. They knew the real version of him, and neither of them actually did. Vanessa sent one last message. If that happens, 3 dots appeared. Then the final line. Your wedding gift might reveal more than you planned. I looked again at the screenshots, the photos, the messages, the lies. And slowly, a new idea began forming. Because maybe the best revenge wasn't exposing Daniel alone. Maybe the best revenge was letting the truth expose itself. In front of everyone. At the exact moment, Daniel and Olivia believed their story was finally perfect. I smiled slightly, because suddenly, that wedding gift had just become far more interesting. For the next 2 days, I did something I never imagined I would do. I studied Daniel's life, not as a partner, not as someone who loved him, but as someone looking for weaknesses, patterns, connections. Anything that explained the man he had really become. The screenshots Vanessa sent became my starting point, especially one name. Sophie. I opened the message thread again, scrolled slowly, carefully. Daniel's tone with her was different, more relaxed, more intimate. With Olivia, he sounded polished, careful, strategic. But with Sophie, he sounded honest. And that alone made the situation more dangerous, because it meant Sophie believed him, believed the promises, believed the future he hinted at. I opened Sophie's profile, private, but not completely hidden. Profile picture, dark hair, sharp eyes, confident smile. She looked younger than Olivia, maybe late 20s. Someone who believed. She had time on her side. Scrolling further, I found something interesting. A public comment, posted under an old photo. Daniel Hayes liked this. The photo showed a beach, sunset, 2 glasses of champagne. The caption read, "Some nights change everything." My stomach tightened slightly, because the date under that post was 9 months ago. 9 months. That meant Daniel had been seeing Sophie, even before he proposed to me. For a moment, I just sat there, thinking, because the picture of Daniel was becoming clearer now. He wasn't confused. He wasn't lost. He wasn't emotionally overwhelmed. Daniel simply kept multiple doors open. Always. Until he found the most profitable one. My phone buzzed. Vanessa, again. "Did you find Sophie?" I typed back. "Yes." 3 dots appeared. Then her reply came. "Be careful with her." I frowned slightly. "Why?" Vanessa answered immediately. "Because she doesn't know about Olivia." That surprised me. "What?" Another message appeared. "She thinks Daniel is leaving someone." My pulse quickened. Leaving someone, not marrying someone else. Which meant Sophie believed Daniel was ending a relationship, not starting a new one. I typed again. "Are you sure?" Vanessa replied, "Almost certain." Then another message arrived. Last month she told someone Daniel was about to make a big decision. I leaned back slowly. A big decision. My mind replayed Daniel's message again. "Don't worry. It's temporary." Temporary. Maybe he had told Sophie his relationship with Olivia was temporary. Or maybe he told Sophie I was temporary. The realization made me laugh quietly, because Daniel had probably told each woman exactly what she wanted to hear. Vanessa sent another message. "Elena, you should talk to her." My eyes narrowed slightly. "Why?" Her response came quickly. "Because she might help you." That idea hung in the air. "Help me." I looked again at Sophie's profile, confident, smiling, completely unaware of the role she was playing in someone else's deception. Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the couch, the wine glasses, the messages sent while Daniel was planning a wedding with me. Sympathy had limits. Still, Vanessa might be right. If Sophie believed Daniel was leaving someone, then she didn't know the full truth, which meant she might react strongly once she learned it. And strong reactions can change everything. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I opened a new message, typed slowly, carefully. "Hi, Sophie. You don't know me, but I think we should talk about Daniel." I stared at the message, then pressed send. The reply came faster than I expected. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message appeared. "Who is this?" Direct. Suspicious. I responded simply. "My name is Elena." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, the next message arrived. "Elena, what?" I typed again. "Elena Carter." This time, the pause lasted longer. 30 seconds, then a full minute. Finally, her response came. "Daniel's ex?" I stared at the screen, then replied, "Yes." Another long pause followed. When Sophie finally responded, her message was shorter, more cautious. "Why are you contacting me?" I considered my answer carefully, because honesty would work better than manipulation, because I think Daniel lied to both of us. The typing indicator appeared instantly. Then her response came. "What are you talking about?" I took a slow breath, then typed the question that mattered most. "Did Daniel tell you he was leaving someone?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she replied, "Yes." My chest tightened slightly. "Did he tell you he was getting married?" This time, the pause lasted much longer. 2 minutes. 3. Then, finally, a single message appeared. "What?" I stared at the word, then sent a screenshot. The wedding invitation, gold lettering, Daniel Hayes, Olivia Monroe, June wedding date. Sophie's reply came instantly. "This isn't funny." I typed back calmly. "I'm not joking." The typing dots appeared again, faster this time, more frantic. "Daniel told me he was ending things." I responded. "He did end things." A pause. Then another message from Sophie. "With who?" I answered honestly. "With me." Silence. Then another message appeared. "Who is Olivia?" I leaned back slowly, because that question confirmed everything. Sophie had no idea. I replied, "The woman he's marrying." The typing indicator flickered for several seconds, then stopped. Another message appeared. "You're lying." I sent another screenshot. The wedding website. Their engagement photo. Daniel smiling beside Olivia. Perfect, happy, carefully curated. The read receipt appeared. Then nothing. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Finally, Sophie replied. 3 words. "Where are you?" I blinked slightly. "What?" Her next message came quickly. "Where are you right now?" I hesitated, then answered. "At home." Sophie responded immediately. "We need to meet." That surprised me. "Why?" Her reply came seconds later. "Because if what you're saying is true." Another message followed. "Daniel is lying to both of us." I studied the screen, thinking, because this meeting could change everything. 2 women, both betrayed, both angry, both connected to the same man. Situations like that rarely stay calm for long. Finally, I typed, "Okay." She sent an address. A bar in Midtown. Tonight. I looked at the time. 7:15 p.m. Then I looked at the invitation again. Daniel and Olivia's perfect future, printed in gold letters. And suddenly I realized something. Their wedding was no longer just a celebration. It had become a countdown to the moment. All of Daniel's stories collided in the same room. I grabbed my coat. My phone buzzed again. One more message from Sophie. "Bring proof." I smiled slightly, because proof was the one thing I had plenty of. Later that night, I stood outside the bar. Neon lights reflected on the wet pavement. Inside, people laughed. Music played. Normal life continued. Meanwhile, I was about to meet the woman Daniel believed he was secretly building a future with. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. "I'm here." I pushed the door open and immediately spotted her. Dark hair, sharp eyes, exactly like the profile photo. She looked up, saw me, and in that moment, I realized something important. Sophie wasn't heartbroken. Not yet. Right now, she was furious. And furious people are capable of very interesting things. She gestured toward the chair, across from her. "Sit." I did. She leaned forward slightly, her voice calm. Too calm. "Start talking." I placed my phone on the table, opened the screenshots, then slid it toward her. Sophie looked down, scrolled. Her expression changed slowly. Confusion, then disbelief, then anger. Finally, she looked up at me and asked the question I had been waiting for. "How many women?" I met her eyes and answered quietly, "More than just us." Silence filled the table. Then Sophie said something that made my heart beat faster. "Good." I frowned slightly. "Good?" She nodded once, because suddenly a dangerous smile appeared on her face. "Yes." She leaned back in her chair and said 4 words that changed everything. Then we ruined the wedding. For a moment, I wasn't sure if Sophie was serious. "Ruin the wedding?" I asked. She nodded calmly. "Yes." Her voice was steady, too steady. The kind of calm people have right before they decide to do something reckless. I studied her face. Dark eyes, tight jaw, no hesitation. "You realize what that means?" I said. "Yes." "You're about to humiliate him in front of everyone he knows." Sophie gave a small laugh. "He deserves worse." I couldn't disagree with that. Still, something about this plan felt dangerous. Not for Daniel, for us. Public revenge has a way of exploding in every direction, including the people holding the match. I leaned forward slightly. What exactly are you thinking? Sophie slid my phone back across the table. The messages, she said. They're enough. I shook my head. Not quite. She frowned. What do you mean? Right now, I said, it's still a story. People could argue about it, deign it, twist it. Sophie crossed her arms. So what do we need? I answered quietly. Something undeniable. Something that left no room for explanation, no room for excuses. Sophie leaned back, thinking. The bar around us buzzed with music. People laughing, glasses clinking. Normal life. Meanwhile, we were sitting there, quietly planning to destroy a wedding. Finally, Sophie spoke again. There is something. My eyes narrowed slightly. What? She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, unlocked it, then placed it on the table. Daniel sent this yesterday. I looked down. A text message thread. The newest message sat at the bottom. Daniel, I can't wait to see you again. My chest tightened slightly. What did you reply? I asked. Sophie smirked faintly. Nothing yet. Why? Because I wanted to see what he would say next. She scrolled upward. Another message appeared. Daniel, just a few more weeks. My stomach dropped slightly, because I knew exactly what that meant. The wedding. He was counting down to the wedding. And somehow, that event was connected to Sophie. What does he think is happening in a few weeks? I asked. Sophie looked at me. He thinks we're going away together. My eyebrows lifted. After the wedding? She nodded. Yes. A strange silence settled between us, because the situation was almost absurd. Daniel was planning a honeymoon with Olivia and a secret trip with Sophie. At the same time, Sophie laughed quietly. I have to admit, she said, the man is ambitious. I shook my head slowly. No, he's careless, because juggling this many lies always leads to the same ending. Collapse. Sophie leaned forward again. So how do we expose him? I thought about it carefully, because this moment mattered. If we did it wrong, Daniel could still twist the story, blame us, play the victim. But if we did it right, he would have nowhere to hide. Finally, I spoke. We don't attack. Sophie frowned. What? We let Daniel reveal himself. She looked confused. How? By giving him exactly what he expects. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're going to have to explain that. I smiled faintly. Keep talking to him. Sophie blinked. Seriously? Yes. Act like everything is normal. Like you believe him. Like you're excited to see him. Sophie stared at me. You want me to pretend I still trust him? Yes. Why? Because Daniel will relax. He'll stop being careful. And careless people leave evidence. Sophie considered that. Slowly, a new expression appeared on her face. Understanding. You want him to trap himself. Exactly. She leaned back again, thinking. Then she nodded once. All right. I can do that. Her phone buzzed. At that exact moment, we both looked down. A new message appeared. From Daniel. Sophie opened it and read aloud. Miss you. She raised an eyebrow. Well, that was fast. I leaned closer. Reply. She glanced at me. What should I say? I thought for a moment, then answered. Tell him you miss him too. Sophie smirked. Then typed. Miss you too. Seconds passed. Daniel replied instantly. Wish you were here tonight. Sophie showed me the screen. Now what? I shrugged slightly. Ask him where he is. She typed the question. Where are you? The response arrived quickly. At Olivia's place. We both froze. Sophie looked up at me. Well, that's awkward. I leaned closer again. Keep going. Sophie typed another message. Is she there? 3 dots appeared. Then Daniel replied. No. Another message followed. Just finishing wedding stuff. Sophie looked at me again. Wedding stuff. I shook my head slightly. Ask him something. What? Ask if he's excited. Sophie typed, "Are you excited for the wedding?" We waited. The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, Daniel replied, "Honestly?" Sophie looked at me. I nodded. "Tell him yes." She typed, "Yes." Daniel's response came, slowly. "I'm more excited for what happens after." My chest tightened slightly, because that sentence was exactly what we needed. Sophie typed again. "What do you mean?" Daniel responded immediately. "You know what I mean." Another message followed. "Once everything is settled." Settled. The word echoed in my mind. Settled how? Settled when? But Sophie had the same thought. "Ask him to explain," she whispered. She typed, "Explain." 3 dots appeared again. Then Daniel sent something unexpected. A voice message. 30 seconds long. Sophie and I exchanged a glance. "Play it," I said. She tapped the screen. Daniel's voice filled the space between us. Calm, confident, completely unaware. "I just mean, once the wedding is done, everything gets easier." A pause. Then he continued, "I'll finally have the stability I've been working toward." My heart beat faster, because that word mattered. Stability. Not love. Not happiness. Stability. Daniel continued speaking. "And then you and I can figure out what we want next." The message ended. Silence returned. Sophie stared at the phone, then slowly looked up at me. "Well," she said quietly, "that sounds romantic." I laughed once. Short. Sharp. He just admitted it. Sophie nodded slowly. "Yes. He's marrying Olivia for stability and planning the rest of his life with someone else." She locked her phone, then leaned forward. "Now we definitely ruined the wedding." I shook my head slightly. "Not yet." She frowned. "What?" "We wait." "For what?" "For Daniel to make one more mistake." Sophie crossed her arms. "What kind of mistake?" I answered quietly. "The kind that happens when someone thinks they've already won." She studied me for a moment, then smiled slowly. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said. "I'm finishing it, because revenge isn't about anger." Not really. The best revenge is clarity, letting the truth appear, exactly where it hurts most. Sophie stood up. "So what happens next?" I looked at the wedding invitation again, then answered calmly, "Next, we go to the wedding." Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment, replaying Daniel's voice message, listening to every word, every pause, every careless confession, because now the picture was finally complete. Daniel wasn't confused. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't even particularly cruel. He was practical. Marriage to Olivia meant power, connections, money, security, and Sophie was simply the future he planned to enjoy afterward. I closed my laptop slowly, then looked at the calendar on my wall. 2 weeks, that's how long remained before the wedding. 2 weeks before Daniel stood in front of hundreds of guests and promised loyalty. 2 weeks before Olivia proudly walked down the aisle, believing she had won. 2 weeks before their perfect story became public truth. I leaned back in my chair and smiled slightly, because now the wedding gift was almost ready. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly, almost peacefully. Sunlight spilled through my apartment window, birds outside. The kind of morning people usually describe as perfect, which felt ironic, because somewhere across the city, Olivia was probably getting ready for the happiest day of her life, and Daniel was preparing to marry her. I stood in my kitchen, holding a cup of coffee, watching the sunlight move across the table. 3 months ago, this kind of morning would have destroyed me. It felt strangely calm, because grief had already done its work. What remained was clarity. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. "Today's the day." I typed back, "Ready?" Her reply came instantly. "More than ready." Another message appeared, Vanessa is already there. That didn't surprise me. Vanessa had always moved comfortably inside Olivia's social world. She could blend in, observe. Wait. I checked the time. 10:12 a.m. The ceremony would begin at 5. Plenty of time for the illusion to grow stronger. I finished my coffee, then walked to my closet, pulled out the dress I had chosen. Black, simple, elegant. Not a mourning dress, not a revenge dress either. Just something that said, I belonged in the room. Because today, I wasn't arriving as the ex. I was arriving as a guest, a witness, someone who knew the full story. My phone buzzed again, this time from Vanessa. You should see this. A photo appeared. Olivia standing in front of a mirror. Wedding dress, white silk, long veil, perfect makeup. She looked radiant, happy, exactly the way brides are supposed to look. Under the photo, Vanessa added a message. She has no idea. I stared at the picture. For a moment, a strange feeling passed through me. Not anger, something softer. Because Olivia wasn't smiling, like someone who had stolen something. She was smiling, like someone who believed she had finally won, and that belief was about to disappear. I typed back, "Where's Daniel?" Vanessa responded, "Outside with the groomsmen." Another message appeared, "Nervous." I smiled slightly. Good. Nervous people make mistakes. By the time I arrived at the estate, the sun was beginning to set. The venue looked exactly the way I remembered. Stone pathways, rose gardens, glass reception hall. Beautiful, expensive, carefully designed for perfect moments. Guests were already arriving. Black suits, elegant dresses, champagne glass, laughter. No one noticed me as I walked through the garden, which was perfect, because invisibility is powerful. My phone buzzed. Sophie, I'm here. I scanned the crowd, then spotted her, standing near the bar, dark dress, calm expression. When our eyes met, she gave a small nod. Everything was in place. Vanessa appeared a few minutes later. She approached quietly, holding a glass of champagne. "Well," she said softly, "this is surreal." I looked around, guests chatting, music playing, the bride's family greeting people, near the entrance. "Yes," I said, "it is." Vanessa leaned slightly closer. "Daniel has been checking his phone all afternoon." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes." She smiled faintly. "Probably texting Sophie." Sophie overheard that and laughed quietly. "Actually," she said, "he texted me 20 minutes ago." My eyes narrowed. "What did he say?" Sophie pulled out her phone, showed us the screen. "Daniel, wish you were here tonight." Vanessa shook her head slowly. "Unbelievable." Sophie typed something quickly, then looked up at me. "I told him I might stop by." My eyebrows lifted. "You told him that?" She nodded. "Yes." "And?" "He said he'd like that." Vanessa stared at her. "He invited his secret girlfriend to his own wedding?" Sophie shrugged. "Apparently." I laughed quietly, because Daniel's arrogance was now doing half the work for us. Music suddenly shifted, a soft melody drifting across the garden. Guests began moving toward the ceremony area. It was time. Vanessa glanced toward the aisle. "Places," she said quietly. Sophie and I exchanged one last look. Then we walked with the crowd. Rows of white chairs lined the garden lawn, flowers everywhere, soft lights hanging in the trees. The setting looked magical, which made the truth, waiting beneath it, even more powerful. I sat near the middle row. Sophie chose a seat on the opposite side. Vanessa slipped toward the back. Everyone watching, everyone waiting. Then the music changed, and Daniel walked down the aisle. He looked exactly the same. Tall, confident, perfect suit, perfect smile. For a moment, his eyes scanned the crowd. Then they stopped. On me. Just for a second. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by surprise. Then something else. Fear. Only a flicker. But I saw it. Daniel quickly looked away, pretending nothing had happened. But now he knew. I was there, watching. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke. Words about love, commitment, destiny. I almost admired the irony, because at that exact moment, Daniel's phone vibrated inside his pocket. A message. From Sophie. I knew, because she glanced down and smiled slightly. The bride's music started. Everyone turned. Olivia appeared at the top of the aisle, her father beside her. The crowd murmured softly. She looked stunning, radiant, happy, the kind of happiness people remember forever. She walked slowly forward, toward Daniel, toward the future she believed was waiting. Halfway down the aisle, she caught sight of me. Her smile faltered, just for a moment, then returned. But the confidence behind it had shifted slightly, because she hadn't expected me to actually come. Daniel's hands tightened slightly. As she reached the altar, they stood together, facing the officiant. The ceremony continued. Words, promises, laughter. Then came the vows. Daniel went first. He spoke beautifully. Of course he did. Daniel had always been good with words. He talked about fate, about honesty, about finding the person who truly understood him. The crowd smiled. Some guests even wiped tears. Then Olivia spoke, her voice softer, more emotional. She talked about unexpected love, about courage, about choosing happiness. And as she finished, the officiant smiled. We are gathered here today to celebrate the truth of love. Truth. The word echoed quietly through the garden. I glanced toward Sophie. She met my eyes, then slowly reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and typed one final message. To Daniel. Seconds later, his pocket vibrated again. He hesitated, just slightly, but I saw it. Then he made a mistake. He checked the message. His expression changed instantly. Confusion. Then shock. Because Sophie's message read, "Turn around." Daniel slowly lifted his head and looked toward the crowd, toward Sophie, toward me, toward the two women who now knew every secret he had tried to hide. And in that moment, Daniel finally understood something. The wedding gift had just arrived. Daniel looked up from his phone. His eyes moved across the crowd, searching, confused. Then he saw Sophie, sitting calmly, 3 rows from the front. Their eyes locked. For a moment, Daniel completely forgot where he was, forgot the guests, forgot the ceremony, forgot Olivia standing beside him. The officiant noticed the pause. "Daniel?" he said gently. "Is everything all right?" Daniel blinked quickly, then forced a smile. Yes, but his voice sounded different, tighter, more careful, because now his perfect wedding had 2 unexpected guests, and he knew exactly why they were there. The ceremony continued. The officiant spoke again. Before we proceed with the exchange of rings, does anyone here have reason to believe these 2 should not be married? The question floated softly through the garden. Usually it was ceremonial, a tradition, a formality, but this time it mattered. The crowd remained silent for 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then Sophie stood up. Slowly, every head in the audience turned. The officiant blinked in surprise. "Yes?" he said carefully. Sophie's voice was calm, clear, almost polite. "I do." The garden fell completely silent. Olivia frowned slightly. "I'm sorry?" she said. Sophie stepped into the aisle, walking slowly toward the front. Daniel looked like someone watching a car accident in slow motion. "Sophie," he said quietly, "what are you doing?" She didn't stop walking. Instead, she held up her phone. "I think Olivia deserves to know something." Olivia glanced at Daniel, then back at Sophie. "What is she talking about?" Olivia asked. Daniel didn't answer, because he couldn't. Sophie reached the front row, then turned her phone toward Olivia. "Did Daniel tell you he's been seeing someone else?" Olivia's eyebrows lifted slightly. That's ridiculous. Sophie tilted her head. Is it? Then she tapped the screen. A message appeared. Daniel's words. Miss you. Another swipe. Just a few more weeks. Another. Once everything is settled. Whispers spread through the guests. Confusion. Shock. Daniel stepped forward quickly. Sophie, he said sharply. Stop. But Sophie ignored him. She looked directly at Olivia. Did he tell you about me? Olivia's smile disappeared. Slowly. What are you talking about? Sophie's voice remained calm. We've been seeing each other. For almost a year. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniel turned pale. That's not true, he said quickly. Sophie laughed once, then tapped the screen again. This time, a voice message played. Daniel's voice. Clear, confident. I'm more excited for what happens after. The guests listened. Daniel froze up, because everyone recognized the voice. The message continued. Once the wedding is done, everything gets easier. A pause. Then you and I can figure out what we want next. The recording ended. Silence fell across the garden. Daniel looked like someone whose world had just collapsed. Olivia stared at him, her expression slowly changing. Confusion, hurt, then anger. Daniel, she said quietly. Explain. He opened his mouth, closed it again, searching for words. But every explanation had already been destroyed. By his own voice, by his own promises, by his own lies. Finally, he tried anyway. It's not what it sounds like. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Really? She stepped aside and gestured toward me. Elena, she said, would you like to add anything? Hundreds of eyes turned. Watching. Waiting. I stood slowly, walked down the aisle, past the rows of guests, past the flowers, past the perfect decorations that had taken months to plan, until I reached the front. Olivia stared at me. You came, she said softly. Yes. I looked at Daniel, then back at her. You invited me. The crowd remained completely silent. Olivia's voice trembled slightly. Did you know about this? I nodded. For a while, she looked at Daniel again. How many women? Daniel didn't answer. So I did. More than 2. A murmur spread through the guests. Sophie crossed her arms. Apparently we weren't special. Olivia's eyes filled with something darker. Rage. Humiliation. Understanding. She turned slowly toward Daniel. You told me she was the problem. Daniel swallowed hard. You said she was unstable. You said she pushed you away. Daniel said nothing. Because now, everyone was watching. Everyone was listening. Everyone was seeing. The real version of him. Olivia's voice became colder. Was any of it true? Daniel looked down. For the first time all evening, he looked small. The officiant cleared his throat awkwardly. I think perhaps. Olivia raised a hand. Stop. The word echoed sharply. She reached for the ring, then paused, looked at Daniel one last time, and removed the ring from her finger. Gasps filled the garden. She placed it in Daniel's hand, slowly, deliberately. Then she spoke quietly. You don't get to marry me. Daniel looked stunned. But, no. Her voice was firm now. You wanted stability. You wanted connections. You wanted everything my family could give you. She stepped back. And you almost got it. The crowd watched in silence. Then Olivia turned toward me. For a moment, I expected anger, blame, accusation. Instead, she sighed. I guess this was your wedding gift. I considered that, then shook my head slightly. No. What do you mean? She asked. The gift wasn't the truth. I gestured toward Daniel. The gift was letting him tell it himself. For the first time that evening, Olivia laughed, short, bitter. Then she turned away, walking back down the aisle. The guests parted silently. Daniel remained standing at the altar, alone. The officiant slowly closed his book. Well, he said quietly, that concludes the ceremony. No one laughed. The crowd began to disperse. Soft conversations, confused whispers. Phones already appearing. To capture the aftermath. Daniel looked at me, his voice barely above a whisper. You planned this. I met his eyes. No, you did. You just helped. Sophie walked past him, pausing briefly. You really should have been honest. Then she left. Vanessa followed. The garden slowly emptied, leaving Daniel alone, beneath the arch of white roses, exactly where he had planned, to begin his perfect future. I turned to leave, but Daniel spoke again. Elena. I stopped. What? His voice sounded broken now. Was it worth it? I thought about that question, carefully, then answered honestly. I didn't come for revenge. Then why did you come? I looked around the empty garden, at the decorations, the candles, the abandoned chairs. Then I looked back at him. Because you rewrote our story, and I wanted the truth, to finish it. Daniel said nothing, so I walked away, through the garden, past the guests, out toward the quiet road. The night air felt cool, peaceful. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. Drinks? I smiled slightly, then typed back. Maybe tomorrow, because tonight, I didn't need celebration, or revenge, or closure. Tonight, I had something better. The truth. And sometimes, that's the most satisfying ending of all.
This content is entirely fictional. Any similarity to real person or even is coincidental. This video is not news, not a documentary. It is presented for creative storytelling purpose only. AI assisted production.